Hey everyone, are you ready to unlock some serious word power?
I know I am.
Today, we're diving deep into vocabulary expansion.
It's going to be fun.
And trust me, it's not just about sounding fancy, you know?
Right.
We're going way beyond basic tips and tricks.
Absolutely.
We've got this script for a video all about easy vocabulary expansion.
Okay.
And we're going to extract the most practical tips and fascinating nuggets.
That's right. We're going to uncover why just memorizing definitions can be a huge mistake.
Huge mistake.
Yeah. And we'll share some surprisingly fun ways to make those new words stick.
The source really emphasizes that vocabulary is about more than just showing off.
Yeah.
You know, it's really the foundation of how we communicate.
Absolutely.
And understand the world around us.
It's true. A robust vocabulary allows for more precise expression and deeper comprehension. Like imagine trying to understand a complex scientific theory or appreciate the nuances of a great novel with a limited vocabulary.
Yeah.
You'd be missing out on so much.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's like trying to navigate a city with only a vague sense of direction.
Yeah.
You might eventually get where you're going, but you're going to miss all the interesting landmarks and the hidden alleyways along the way.
Exactly. A richer vocabulary gives you the tools to explore those hidden depths and appreciate the subtleties of language.
Okay, so we're all on board with WHY. Expanding our vocabulary is essential.
Yes.
But let's get practical. What are some of those easy tricks the source lays out?
Okay.
It mentions reading, but I'm curious to go beyond just read more. What kind of reading is most impactful?
Well, the source highlights the power of reading diverse materials.
Okay.
Particularly those outside your comfort zone. Think about it.
Okay.
Encountering new words in challenging contexts.
Right.
Like scientific articles or historical fiction can accelerate your vocabulary acquisition.
That makes sense, like pushing yourself to read material that's a little bit above your current level kind of forces you to engage with those new words and decipher their meanings from context.
It is. It's like a mental workout for your vocabulary.
It's like weightlifting for your brain.
Yes.
The more you challenge yourself, the stronger your vocabulary muscles become.
Precisely.
Speaking of workouts, what about those classic vocabulary building tools like flashcards?
Right.
I have to admit, I've always been a bit skeptical. Do they really work?
They absolutely can.
Oh.
But there's a bit more to it than just writing down words and definitions.
Right.
The source delves into the fascinating science behind spaced repetition.
Okay.
A technique that's proven to boost long-term retention.
Spaced repetition. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Can you explain how that works?
Essentially, it involves reviewing information at increasing intervals.
Okay.
So you might review a new word a few times in the first day.
Right.
Then again a few days later.
Got it.
Then a week later, and so on.
Okay.
This spaced-out review helps to solidify the word in your long-term memory.
It's like giving your brain a series of reminders, you know?
Yes.
Nudging it to remember that new word. I can see how that would be more effective than just cramming a bunch of words into your head.
Yeah.
And hoping they stick.
Exactly. Spaced repetition takes advantage of how our brains naturally learn and forget by strategically timing those review sessions.
Right.
You can maximize your chances of remembering new words for the long haul.
Okay, so reading diverse material and using spaced repetition with flashcards are two great techniques. The source also mentions organizing words into categories.
Okay.
What's the advantage there?
Well, think about it. If you try to learn a random assortment of words.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like trying to remember a shopping list with items in no particular order.
Right, right.
It's much easier if those items are grouped together, like produce, dairy, and snacks.
So instead of learning happy one day and then elephant the next, you might group emotion words together.
Yeah, exactly.
Like happy, sad, angry, excited.
Exactly. By creating these mental connections.
Right.
You're not just memorizing isolated words, you're building a network of related vocabulary.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier to recall and use those words effectively.
It's like building a mental map of words.
Yes.
I like that analogy. Now, the next tip is one I'm a big fan of. Synonyms. Why are synonyms so important for vocabulary expansion?
Synonyms allow you to express yourself with more nuance and precision. Instead of just saying happy, You might say delighted or overjoyed.
Right.
Depending on the intensity of your emotion.
It's like having a palette of colors to choose from instead of just black and white. You can paint a much richer picture
Absolutely.
with language when you have a range of synonyms at your disposal.
Exactly. Synonyms allow you to choose the word that most accurately conveys your intended meaning, making your communication more precise and impactful.
Okay, so we've got reading, flashcards, categories, synonyms. Are you ready for a trick that's actually entertaining?
Let's hear it.
Because the source mentions watching English movies and TV shows as a vocabulary booster, and I have to say, that sounds pretty fun.
It's all about immersion.
Yeah.
When you hear words used naturally in dialogue,
it
helps them stick in your memory. And you pick up slang and idioms.
Yes!
Which can make your English sound more natural.
I love that idea. You're sneaking in vocabulary practice while enjoying a good movie.
Exactly.
Or show. Who wouldn't want to do that?
For sure.
But how can we make the most of this strategy?
Well,
just passively watching probably won't cut it, right?
You're right. To truly benefit, you need to be an active viewer.
Okay.
Start with subtitles if needed.
Yeah.
But challenge yourself to turn them off once you feel more confident.
Right.
And don't be afraid to pause.
Okay.
And rewind if you hear a word that stumps you. Look it up and try to use it in a sentence of your own.
It's like turning your movie night into a vocabulary treasure hunt.
Exactly.
I like it. Okay, so we've learned all these fantastic words, but simply knowing them isn't enough, right?
Right.
We've got to actually USE them. What does the source suggest?
The source emphasizes the importance of actively incorporating new words into your speaking and writing. It's taking those shiny new tools out of the box and putting them to work.
And the more you use them, the more comfortable and natural they'll feel, right?
Exactly.
It's like breaking in a new pair of shoes. At first, they might feel a little stiff.
Yeah.
But with practice, they become a part of you.
Exactly. And the script suggests creating sentences with your new vocabulary words.
Okay.
This helps solidify their meaning and ensures you're using them correctly. It's all about turning passive knowledge into active, usable language.
So instead of just admiring the word serendipitous from afar, I might say, it was serendipitous that I bumped into my old friend at the coffee shop.
Exactly.
And suddenly I've brought that word to life and made it my own.
And the more you do this,
the
more those words will become a natural part of your everyday language.
Okay, this is all fantastic. But for someone starting out,
it
can feel a bit overwhelming. Where do you even begin?
Well, the source offers a simple yet effective suggestion. The Word of the Day Challenge.
Word of the day.
Yes.
Tell me more.
It's all about focusing on just one new word each day.
Okay.
It's a small commitment.
Yeah.
But those small steps add up to big progress.
I love that approach. It's manageable.
Yes.
And it makes vocabulary building feel less daunting. It's like saying, okay, brain, just one new friend today.
Exactly.
Let's get to know each other.
And by using that word throughout the day, in conversations or writing, you're really cementing it in your memory.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground here. Reading diverse material, spaced repetition with flashcards, categories, synonyms, movies and shows, actively using new words, and the Word of the Day challenge.
That's a lot.
Before we get too excited about all these amazing tricks, though, let's talk about some common pitfalls to avoid. What's the first mistake people often make when trying to expand their vocabulary?
The source highlights the danger of learning words in isolation without any context. It's like trying to learn a dance move without music. You might be able to mimic the steps, but you won't truly understand the rhythm or the flow.
So just memorizing a definition from a dictionary isn't enough.
Exactly. The script uses the word generous as an example.
Okay.
Simply memorizing the definition won't help you use it correctly in a sentence.
Right.
You need to understand how it fits into phrases like a generous person.
Right.
Or a generous donation.
Right. Context is everything. It's not just about knowing what a word means, but understanding how to use it naturally in conversation.
Precisely. It's about seeing the word in action, understanding its nuances, and then being able to use it confidently and accurately in your own communication.
Okay, so context is key. What's another common pitfall to watch out for?
The second pitfall is something we touched on earlier, not reviewing those hard-earned words.
That's okay.
It's like learning a new recipe but never actually making it again. Eventually, the details will fade from your memory.
And that's where consistent practice comes in, right?
Yes.
We need to give our brains regular reminders about these new words if we want them to stick.
Exactly. The source connects this back to the spaced repetition.
Right.
That regular review helps move information from our short-term memory to long-term memory.
Okay.
It's like giving those new words a regular workout so they stay in tip-top shape.
Speaking of workouts, our source has some fun vocabulary exercises to share.
They do.
That go beyond the traditional methods.
These exercises turn vocabulary practice into a game, which can make the whole process more enjoyable and engaging.
Okay, I'm all for making learning fun. Let's hear about these exercises. What's the first one?
The first one is vocabulary bingo.
Vocabulary bingo. I'm already intrigued.
Yeah.
How does that work?
You create a bingo card with different categories or types of words.
Okay.
Maybe verbs, adjectives, or even slang terms.
So let's say I have a category for words related to technology.
Perfect. Now, as you're reading an article about the latest tech gadgets or watching a documentary about artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
you'd be on the lookout for words that fit that category.
Like algorithm, interface, artificial intelligence, virtual reality.
Exactly. Each time you encounter a word that matches a category on your card, you mark it off.
Got it.
The first person to get 5 in a row or to fill their entire card wins.
I can see this getting quite addictive. It's a fantastic way to turn vocabulary practice into a fun challenge. Especially, if you're playing with friends or family, what's the next game or exercise, I should say?
This one is a bit more introspective.
Okay.
It's called the Vocabulary Journal, and it encourages a deeper engagement with the words you're learning.
So it's more than just a list of words and definitions.
It's much more. The idea is to create a personalized record of your vocabulary journey.
Okay.
You might write down the word, its definition, some synonyms and antonyms, perhaps even a sketch or a diagram that helps you visualize the word.
It's almost like creating your own illustrated dictionary.
Exactly. And the act of writing, drawing, and engaging with the word on multiple levels helps to solidify it in your memory.
Right.
It's a great way to make those new words truly your own.
I love that idea. It's a much more active and creative approach than just passively reading definitions.
For sure.
Okay, what's the last exercise?
This one taps into the power of association. It's called word association.
Okay.
And it's all about making connections between words and concepts.
Sounds intriguing. How does it work?
It's incredibly simple.
Yeah.
You start with a word, any word, and then let your mind wander. What other words come to mind?
So if I start with the word forest, I might think of trees, leaves, sunlight, shade, green, brown, animals, birdsong.
Exactly. You're essentially creating a mental map of related words.
Right.
A web of associations that helps you expand your vocabulary organically.
I can see how that would be a really effective way to solidify those new words in your memory.
Yeah.
By connecting them to familiar words and concepts, you're creating like a framework that makes them easier to recall.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to tap into your existing knowledge.
Right.
And build upon it, creating a richer, more interconnected vocabulary.
These exercises are brilliant.
They are.
They're creative, engaging, and they take the pressure off of those traditional memorization techniques.
Right.
I'm definitely adding these to my vocabulary toolkit.
I encourage you to do so.
Yeah.
And remember, the most important thing is to find what works best for you. Right. Whether you prefer flashcards, word games, or journaling.
Right.
The key is to make vocabulary building a regular part of your life.
That's a great reminder. Consistency is key.
Absolutely.
And it's much easier to stay consistent when you're enjoying the process.
I couldn't agree more. Now, before we delve into the final segment of our deep dive.
Hold that thought. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
And I think it's a good time to pause and give our listeners a chance to absorb all this amazing information. We'll be back in a moment to wrap things up and leave you with some final inspiration for your vocabulary journey. Don't go anywhere.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is amazing how many approaches there are to learning new vocabulary.
It's like a buffet of word-boosting strategies.
And just like with a buffet, you can pick and choose what appeals to you most.
You don't have to try everything at once. Just find what works best for you.
Right.
And your learning style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to those fun exercises you mentioned, I think it's worth acknowledging that vocabulary expansion isn't always a walk in the park.
Right.
There can be moments of frustration, and setbacks along the way.
That's true. Yeah. It's easy to feel discouraged when you come across a word that just completely stumps you.
Yeah.
Or when you forget a word you thought you had mastered.
Right, and that's why it's so important to be patient with yourself and to celebrate even the smallest victories. Remember, every new word you learn is a step forward on your language journey.
It's like climbing a mountain.
Okay.
There might be steep inclines and rocky patches along the way.
Right.
But the view from the top is worth the effort.
And even the journey itself can be incredibly rewarding, you know?
Yeah.
As you expand your vocabulary, you'll find yourself noticing new things.
Right.
Making connections you hadn't seen before.
Right.
And expressing yourself with more clarity and precision.
It's like you're suddenly seeing the world in high definition.
Yes.
With all the colors and details vibrantly displayed.
Exactly. And that's a feeling worth striving for.
Yeah.
Now, are you ready to hear about those fun exercises?
You bet. Let's bring on the vocabulary games.
All right. The first one is vocabulary bingo, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
This is a great way to make learning interactive and competitive.
I'm all about a little friendly competition, so remind me, how do we play?
You create a bingo card with various categories or types of words.
Right.
You could have a category for verbs, adjectives, nouns,
right,
or even slang terms.
Okay, so let's say I have a category for words related to technology.
Perfect. Now, as you're reading an article about the latest tech gadgets, or watching a documentary about artificial intelligence, you'd be on the lookout for words that fit that category.
Like algorithm, interface, artificial intelligence, virtual reality.
Exactly. Each time you encounter a word that matches a category on your card, you mark it off.
Got it.
The first person to get 5 in a row, or to fill their entire card, wins.
I can see this getting quite addictive. It's a fantastic way to turn vocabulary practice into a fun challenge, especially, you know, if you're playing with friends or family.
Right.
What's the next game or exercise, I should say?
This one is a bit more introspective. It's called the vocabulary journal.
Okay.
And it encourages a deeper engagement with the words you're learning.
So it's more than just a list of words and definitions.
Much more. The idea is to create a personalized record of your vocabulary journey.
Okay.
You might write down the word, its definition.
Got it.
Some synonyms and antonyms.
Right.
Perhaps even a sketch or a diagram that helps you visualize the word.
It's almost like creating your own illustrated dictionary.
Exactly. And the act of writing, drawing, and engaging with the word on multiple levels helps to solidify it in your memory.
Right.
It's a great way to make those new words truly your own.
I love that idea. It's a much more active and creative approach than just passively reading definitions. Okay, what's the last exercise?
This one taps into the power of association.
Okay.
It's called word association.
Okay.
And it's all about making connections between words and concepts.
Sounds intriguing. How does it work?
It's incredibly simple.
Okay.
You start with a word, any word, and then let your mind wander.
Okay.
What other words come to mind?
So if I start with the word forest,
okay,
I might think of trees, leaves, sunlight, shade, green, brown, animals, birdsong.
Exactly. You're essentially creating a mental map of related words.
Great.
A web of associations that helps you expand your vocabulary organically.
I can see how that would be a really effective way to solidify those new words in your memory.
Yeah.
By connecting them to familiar words and concepts, you're creating like a framework that makes them easier to recall.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to tap into your existing knowledge and build upon it, creating a richer, more interconnected vocabulary.
These exercises are brilliant. They're creative, engaging,
they are.
And they take the pressure off of those traditional memorization techniques.
Right.
I'm definitely adding these to my vocabulary toolkit.
I encourage you to do so. And remember,
the
most important thing is to find what works best for you.
Right.
Whether you prefer flashcards, word games, or journaling.
Right.
The key is to make vocabulary building a regular part of your life.
That's a great reminder.
Absolutely.
Consistency is key.
Yes.
And it's much easier to stay consistent when you're enjoying the process.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Now, before we delve into the final segment of our deep dive.
Hold that thought. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
And I think it's a good time to pause and give our listeners a chance to absorb all this amazing information.
It is a lot to take in.
We'll be back in a moment to wrap things up and leave you with some final inspiration for your vocabulary journey.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, word enthusiasts. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty energized.
Me too.
Ready to really supercharge my vocabulary.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
From the science behind spaced repetition to, the sheer joy of vocabulary bingo.
I'm telling you, I'm feeling pretty pumped about all these new strategies.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
How something as simple as learning new words can have such a profound impact on our lives.
It's true. A richer vocabulary really does open up new worlds of understanding and allows us to communicate with more nuance and precision.
It's like upgrading your mental software,
Totally.
Give you more processing power and a wider range of expressive tools.
Okay, now before we wrap up this deep dive into the world of vocabulary expansion, I wanted to touch on one more point that the source briefly mentions.
I'm all ears.
It's this idea that vocabulary isn't just about individual words, it's also about understanding how words work together,
Absolutely.
That intricate dance of grammar and syntax.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Knowing a lot of words is great. But if you don't know how to use them effectively in sentences, your communication will still be lacking.
It's like having a toolbox full of shiny new tools, but not knowing how to use them properly.
Right.
You might be able to hammer in a nail, but you won't be building any masterpieces.
Exactly. Grammar and syntax are like the blueprints
that
guide our language construction, allowing us to create clear, coherent, and impactful communication.
So as you're expanding your vocabulary, don't neglect the importance of grammar and syntax, right?
Absolutely.
They're the secret ingredients that will really elevate your language skills.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so before we send our listeners off on their vocabulary adventures, I believe you have a final thought-provoking question to leave them with.
I do. We've talked about the many benefits of expanding your vocabulary, the techniques, the exercises, the potential pitfalls.
Right.
But ultimately, it comes down to this. What is one word you commit to learning today? And how will you weave it into your world?
That's a fantastic challenge.
Yeah.
It's not about memorizing the entire dictionary.
Right.
It's about making that conscious effort to embrace those new words.
Absolutely.
And make them a part of your everyday life.
Exactly.
So dear listeners, choose your word wisely, explore its nuances, its history, its connections to other words. And most importantly, use it.
Yes.
Write it, speak it, share it with the world.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear about your vocabulary victories.
Right.
Share your chosen word and tell us how you use it.
It's been an absolute pleasure diving deep into this topic with you.
Likewise, the joy of language is that the learning never truly ends. Right?
So true.
So keep exploring.
Keep discovering.
Keep expanding your vocabulary.
But remember, the world is full of words waiting to be unlocked.
Until next time, word nerds.
Happy learning.